Meet Jimmy. Jimmy is a 22-year-old, fresh out of college. He's stuck in the desert. The only way he can survive is through drinking water. In this example, water is the money. It's the unit of account, means of exchange, and a store of value. His job is walking in the desert, and the more he walks, the more income of water he obtains. Jimmy has to decide how much to consume, or drink, and how much to save, which is what is left over when he's done drinking. He must also travel with a horse. Giving the horse water is part of his consumption. This is Jimmy's first paycheck. Well, in the real world, he would lose some of it to taxes. We're going to assume they've already been removed. Jimmy knows he's going to get another paycheck in 2 weeks, so he has to decide how to spread out his consumption between now and then. But it's more complicated than that. Jimmy has to look long-term between now, his working years, and his future when he wants to retire in the desert and just drink water from his savings. Jimmy has to make sure he has a sustainable standard of living for now and the future. The goal is to drink the same amount of water every day for the rest of Jimmy's life. This smooth consumption is difficult to calculate, but if you can estimate your income now, your future income, your retirement age, and when you plan to live until, Jimmy can get a very basic idea of what his level of smooth consumption should be. Of course, fast forwarding a few years, Jimmy can have a wife, Mrs. Jimmy, who is also earning an income. With two incomes, they will both be able to consume more than they would have on their own. If they were both single, Jimmy would need to give his horse a cup, and Miss Jimmy would have to do the same. But because they are married, they are able to use one horse, and therefore they only need 1 cup of water. This reduction in costs increases their standard of living through economies of scale. As Mr. and Mrs. Jimmy save and consume, they must decide on whether they'll plan to eventually have children. If so, they'll need to consume a little less and save a little more, so that way they can make sure there's enough water for a child while still maintaining smooth consumption. At one point, Jimmy and Mrs. Jimmy are going to be too old to walk, and they're just going to want to enjoy the desert. They must have saved up enough water to this point so that they can continue to live without any income, but still be able to maintain their smooth consumption for the rest of their lives.